All right, today fishing with Wader Dave, and we're doing some wade fishing, and this time it's gonna be unique. We're actually starting on the Gulf. So we have the Gulf of Mexico out here. We're gonna do some beach fishing. Hopefully there's some trout hanging in, and then there's some backwaters that's close by. We're gonna walk there afterwards and try that as well. So here's a spot that Dave recommended, and I'm using the tweaker. This is the new tweaker on a Haas Helix hook, and very first cast, hook up to a trout. This is in the surf, hooked into a nice trout. I rarely fish the surf like this, so it was really cool to see this action. And basically what's out here, this is a spot that Wader Dave found. There's some rocks out in the surf, and basically any sort of hard structure you can find in the surf is a very good spot to fish for trout, red, snook, really a variety of species will hold near them. So with all the wave activity, my lure wasn't getting down on the bottom. I started out with the Helix hook, just the 1/16 ounce weight. It was just a bit too light, so I switched over to a jig head, and that's what Wader Dave was using. Here's a nice trout that he caught. And so with the jig head assembly, now it's easier to bounce along the bottom near the structure. In this case, there are rocks on the bottom, so we're bouncing around the structure, and basically every time we did that in this zone, we were getting some action. It was a ton of fun. The bad news about staying on the bottom near structure is that you get snagged if you're not weedless. So I was using a jig head, I got stuck, I had to break off, and so now I'm switching over to the Helix hook. This is a 3/16 ounce Helix hook. That way I can get the depth that I need with the extra weight while being weedless. So shortly after re-rigging, we ended up going over to the bay. The beach, it was just trout, and the bite kind of died off. So moved over to the bay. So now we're fishing an open grass flat. This is shallow water. I'm still using the tweaker. However, I switched to a lighter Helix hook. This is the 1/16 ounce weight. All right, out wading the bay now. We switched from the beach to the bay. Dave just had a red on, and looks like this is a redfish here. Yep, solid roll red, cool blue tail. Up here found the mullet schools, started off with the red, and now legit trout. That'll be the biggest one of the day there. That thing's a chunker too. Yeah. Well done. This was just a quick morning trip, so we didn't have a ton of time to go explore around the flats, and so we went back to the very first spot. This is back to the beach. This is the water had come up now for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and wanted to see if some more trout came into this zone where, again, there's these rocks down there near a trough, and we're just slow bouncing the tweakers along the bottom structure. I have it weedless so I don't get snagged, and this is where the next trout hits. Oh, there we are. My first one on the Optimus Lime.
Well, you know, with that cloudy water,
yep,
that might be good because it's showing up.
Yep. All right, so one last tip before we go, and this is the benefit of weedless lure. So right here, I set the hook, what I thought was a fish, ended up just being the bottom. And so I did a couple quick jerks, right, that do some hard jerks like that when you're fishing weedless lures around rocks. In many cases, it'll dislodge the lure, and then you can just go back on with your retrieve. I did this multiple times this trip. All 3 times I got stuck in the rocks with the Helix hook, I ended up getting out, right? The lure came out after just a couple jerks. And then the one time I got stuck with the traditional jig head, right, with the exposed hook point, that's when I was stuck for good and ended up losing my entire assembly, and I had to spend time retying. So if you're fishing near hard structure, which hopefully you are because that's where most of the bites are, make sure to go weedless. Haas Helix hooks or Haas weedless football jigs are my 2 go-to rigging options for those conditions. All right, so we just got back from wade fishing. As you can see, this is not a secret location. This is a very public park. Still plenty of good fish. Wader Dave comes to areas like this all the time and slays fish, even in high populated zones.
Yes, this is a very popular spot, but it's also a spot that's got all the things I look for when I'm trying to find a wade fishing spot. We've got beach, which we fished today. We found a rocky area that was holding some beautiful trout, anywhere from probably 18 to maybe 21, 22 inches. We then worked further down, went on the inside of this beach area. There's a little lagoon, and fished an area that looked beautiful for redfish and has been producing. Had all the signs again today. There was mullet activity, we had incoming water. We ended up picking, I think, one redfish out of there. We were astounded we didn't pick up more. But sometimes you have the right strategy and they just aren't there for whatever reason, or they're there and they weren't biting, but we threw everything we had at it.
And just a big lesson is you don't have to have a boat or kayak to catch a bunch of fish. Wader Dave's a testament. He's catching overslot snook, giant reds, giant trout all the time, and most of which is from shore.
Absolutely, from shore or in the water, but typically never more than waist deep.
Yeah, and in case you're wondering about equipment, what I was using are the slot machines. So I just had two of the same setups, the slot machine rod. I have a couple lines I'm testing out, but both anywhere from 8 to 10 pound braid, Fuego 2500 reel, and the leader assembly was a 20-pound bite tippet, and then a 10-pound leader up above that, just for clear water. That's been helping me in the Tampa Bay area, and seemed to get some good action there. And Dave, what'd you have? It looks like you have slot machines.
I had actually a couple of slot machine rods. Had this one loaded with actually the Saltus MQ 2500.
Nice.
Actually, this has got 10-pound braid on here, and I was fishing with 20-pound mono leader. And in this case, I had the Slam Shady tweaker on a 1/4 ounce jig head. But that's what I was fishing over. This one here is again very similar. This happens to be a 3000 twin power reel on the slot machine rod, and I've got the 3/16 ounce twist lock hook with this, and then the new penny tweaker. In fact, caught probably the biggest trout of the day on this lure here right today. But again, great equipment. Shows you don't need anything heavy. As Luke said, I've landed 40-inch plus snook and reds on this very same gear.
So if you need any of this equipment, we have it all at fishstrong.com, and almost everything is 20% or more off for members. And if you need to go fish with Wader Dave, highly recommend doing so. Insiders get a discount for him as well.
Yes, my website is www.wadersguide.com. You can look me up on Instagram at Wader Dave. I do offer a 10% discount to all Salt Strong insiders. So if you are interested in a site, just give me a holler or contact me and let me know you're a Salt Strong insider. We'll get a date on the calendar, and we'll get out and hopefully catch some fish like we did today.
Sweet. Yeah, and if you're not yet a member, highly recommend just giving it a try. It comes with a money back guarantee. You have nothing to risk, everything to gain. And what we do is we really focus on helping you find the fish. We'll basically help you identify what we call the 90-10 zone. And if you can do that, you can consistently catch fish throughout the year. So to give it a try, just go to saltstrong.com and we'll see you there.